Hello, hello, yo plebs. Welcome to another episode of Bob Radio. Bob stands for Build on Bitcoin. This is episode 16 of Bob Radio. Our special guest is Dia Rezkitha from the Indonesia Bitcoin Association and one of the main organizers of the Indonesia Bitcoin Conference coming up in Bali at the end of October. Welcome, Dia. How are you doing?
Thanks, Piccolo. I'm glad to be here. It's really fun to join the Bob Radio.
Perfect. All right, let's get us started. Over to my co-DJ, Sovereign.
Hi, Dia. I'm going to shoot you 4 rapid-fire questions. So answer as fast as possible. Don't overthink your reply, right?
Okay.
First one. Favorite place outside of Indonesia?
Ooh, Japan.
Meetup or a conference?
Conference.
Favorite Lightning wallet?
Wallet of Satoshi.
Hyper-Bitcoinization without privacy or perfect privacy without hyper-Bitcoinization?
That's hard. Hyper-Bitcoinization without privacy, probably. I don't know.
All right, we have a Fed here. Piccolo, over to you.
All right, thank you. Okay, those were a set of fun questions. Okay, Dia, let's kind of dive into your personal Bitcoin journey a little bit before we start talking about your projects. But why don't you start by telling our audience a little bit about your orange pill journey and how you came to find Bitcoin and eventually ending up, I don't know, as either one of the founders, I guess, right, of the Indonesia Bitcoin Association. So perhaps you can talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So yeah, thank you for this opportunity. Hi everyone, my name is Dea. I'm Indonesian, and actually my first time encounter Bitcoin was in 2013. I was backpacking around Southeast Asia, and I was at Laos at that time. In some random bar, we were just hanging out there, and then there is a sign. The sign said Bitcoin accepted here, and I thought that was really unique. And I asked the waiters, what is Bitcoin? And then the waiter said, oh, it's just this, internet money. So I thought like, okay, that's interesting. Now internet has money, but that's the only thing that I know about Bitcoin. But fast forward, I think in 2016, I'm already live in Bali at that time. And then I started my own business for like a travel company. And, as a travel company, usually we organize trips for groups, and it takes, usually they book us 1 year ahead of time or 2 years ahead of time. And they paid us in dollars or into our bank account or via PayPal, and usually that takes so long. And I have some problems with my PayPal, like my my PayPal account got frozen at one time, and I just don't like it, because they take too much cut. The rate is not, it's not fair, and there's always problems. And I heard there's this thing called Bitcoin again, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is a thing that I found on my backpacking trip. And I heard that you can accept payment through the Bitcoin network. So I was curious, and then I just joined there's a session, Bitcoin 101 session, in one of the co-working space in Ubud in Bali. And I learned about it. The guy teach me about the wallet, like how it works. And then after the session, you can go downstairs, and there is a Bitcoin ATM where you can put your fiat and exchange it to Bitcoin. And I thought that was really interesting. So I decided to just exchange. My first Bitcoin was like, I think I bought like $10 worth of Bitcoin at that time. The price was still around $600. So I just thought like, okay, this is, interesting. Now I have this digital money. And I actually managed to convince 2 of my clients to pay me in Bitcoin. So it was really interesting experience because we just set up a Skype call and we decided the rate of Bitcoin. And then, I gave the guy my wallet, and then he sent me Bitcoin into my wallet. And it takes so fast, like, less than a minute, you can see that the money is coming, and after 10 minutes the money is in your wallet. So I thought like, wow, that's really convenient in comparison to PayPal. In fact, like I did a test at that time, like I have like 2 clients that one pay me in PayPal, and then this guy who pay me in Bitcoin. Of course the Bitcoin one take 10 minutes, and then I just go to the nearest OTC and we exchange the Bitcoin into rupiah, and then that's it. I have the money, I can manage the travel, I can pay the vendor, while the other client, it takes like 10 days because there's like several banks bank holiday. But yeah, that's like my first introduction about Bitcoin, and I thought that was very cool to have this network that we can send payments, without any third party, and then it's just work, not like not like PayPal or not like other service that really sometimes is really frustrating. But fast forward 2020, of course, because of the COVID, yeah, I cannot continue my business because no one can travel at that time. So I spent a lot of my time just to learn about Bitcoin. And I think what clicked to me was the halving, because before I thought after the 2017 bubble, not bubble, like the bull run, and then after that crash into from 20,000 to like I think 6,000 or something like that. I thought that that's it, like Bitcoin is dead, that's the peak of the of the Bitcoin cycle. So I didn't really pay attention for Bitcoin that much. But in 2020, then people start talking about halving, and then me and my husband was like, okay, what is this? And then we are really going deep into the Bitcoin rabbit hole during this whole COVID time. And yeah, I just, when it clicked, I just tell that I told my husband, and also I said to the universe, and I said like, wow, this thing is really cool. Bitcoin is really cool. Like I really want to spend a lot of my time and dedicate my time to talk about it or to learn about it. So yeah, during that time I just spent a lot of my time just like making content, talking to people about Bitcoin. Eventually, a lot of people start asking me about Bitcoin. So then I create a class, and then a lot of people joining the class, and then a lot of people invited me to be a speaker. And it seems like they really, people in Indonesia also really want to learn about Bitcoin. And it's not only me at that time, and we have I managed to like build several friends along the way when I start teaching people about Bitcoin. And then we had this idea, because everyone seems doing the same thing, like we are talking to people about Bitcoin, why don't we just create a conference? So in 2021 we decided to do our first Indonesia Bitcoin conference. It was an online conference. It was a success. We got like 1,000 people joining in. We got Safedin Amus to talk at the conference, Robert Breedlove as well. We have several a lot of Indonesian speaker as well talking about Bitcoin. And since then, like we building the community around people who attended the conference. And in 2022 we did the same thing. We did the online conference as well. And now in 2023 we want to do the first in-person Bitcoin conference in Bali on October 26 to 27. So that's like my not so short, but kind of my Bitcoin journey.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's actually, thank you for going through that, because I've caught parts of that story, when we met each other probably over a couple of times. But we start talking about stuff that's happening either at the conference or something that's happening, in the Bitcoin world, right? And sometimes you don't get that sequential, chronology. So thank you for sharing. I want to unpack a couple of things because that was fascinating. The summary that I took away was that over the course between 2013 to during, let's say, COVID times, when you went deep into Bitcoin and study about it, there were 2 or 3 touch points, right? During, let's say, 5, 6, 7 years or so. And the thing is, this is a good indication, I guess, of the proof of work is once you're like curious about it and then you go and study and go down the proverbial, rabbit holes, whichever ones you choose. I just wanted to ask a little bit. Many people can have 6 or 7 or 8 different touch points and never made a decision to dedicate time to do the study. Why did you? What was different about you in that particular time that made you do that deep dive?
Well, I guess the hard factor why people very hard to go into that rabbit hole is because there's so much noise in terms of price, and then Bitcoin, everyone's only care about Bitcoin when the price is up, but people don't want to understand like how is it actually works, why is it going up, people don't want to ask that question or want to go deeper on that question. My journey, I think on that 2020, I was angry with a lot of people. I think with the situation, how the world react regarding COVID, and then the different type of policy that was implemented. I was really angry, and then try to ask myself like why we go, like why we have to experience this, like why we have to follow orders and this question, or it leads to many other questions, and just to really understand how much of this world is run by, like, if I can say, scam, like the whole fiat system is not, it's run by scam. So and what is other life's boat that we have if the current system that we are using is not good. So that's how I try to go down to the rabbit hole. But my key actually is to really understand the scarcity aspect of Bitcoin and how it's actually scarce, because everyone always heard that Bitcoin is 21 million, and if you just hear about that, you're like, oh, okay, it's easy to just manipulate this number. And I can also say that I have Dea token, and there's only 100 token available, and that's more scarce than Bitcoin. But it's not about that. It's about the network effect. It's about like how the mining works, how the subsidy work, that makes it really scarce, and that makes it a perfect it's a perfect money. Like it's a good it's much better than gold, if I can say.
Right. May I ask, like, in terms of, were you an economics major, or what did you study? I mean, if you don't mind sharing.
Oh, I was studying international relation. So
right. Okay.
Yeah, so then I mean, we always learn about seeing everything in a micro level. So understanding about the game theory, it's quite it's like one of the things that we learn in school. So when I go down to Bitcoin rabbit hole, it's not only just about cryptography. It's also about geopolitics. It's also about thermodynamic. It's also about economy. It's also about many things. So it's always really interesting to learn about Bitcoin, because you never have any ends. There's no end to this rabbit hole, if I can say.
Right. And maybe you just made me realize something, that not only is there no end, maybe that's actually no perfect beginning either, right? You can come at it from so many different backgrounds and angles.
Exactly. Even if you're like, let's say if you're a biologist, maybe you like fungi or mycelium, and then you learn how Bitcoin works like a mycelium network. That's also can be can be a point of entry.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Let me focus a little bit on something you highlighted, which is the scarcity aspect. The scarcity aspect, when people compare Bitcoin, we like to compare to what we know, which is gold, right? This is always described to us as digital gold. I mean, is that, being Indonesian, like, as a fellow Southeast Asian, do you think we're maybe a little bit more, let's say, primed or prepared to understand like the scarcity element more so than, I would say, our Western counterparts, or especially, folks who have the luxury of being the reserve currencies, right? What do you think about that?
No, absolutely. I mean, through this my Bitcoin rabbit hole journey, I also want to learn more about my Indonesian money history, like how things have changed from the past up until now. And from my research, what I learned is that even since the kingdom era, the centralized government will always debase their currency, whether it is in gold, whether it is in bronze or silver, or even fiat backed by gold, or just purely fiat money. Like, they always try to debase their currency. And one moment that stuck in my head was when as a kid growing up, my grandma always told me, if you have money, save it in gold, because gold is the safest asset that you can have, and it's really easy because you can just go to a gold shop and buy some jewelry or gold bar or something like that. And I don't really know why this idea is always being planted to me or to my generation, but from what I learned in my research is that since the Independence Day, Indonesia is actually continue printing money, and that result in 1965 we have high hyperinflation, like 650% of hyperinflation, because the government doesn't really know how to like they what they know is like they print a lot of money, they have a lot of war debt, so that's the way they manage their economy, I guess. But that created hyperinflation, and the only people who are quote unquote safe are the one who actually store their wealth in, let's say, gold or maybe land. But so that's why I think in Southeast Asia, it is quite common that everyone, all of our parents' generation, well, they always told us to buy gold because they have experienced it from themselves. However, from my experience, owning some gold is also quite problematic, because once you own gold, now you have to think about where you're going to store it, and then what happened if you want to sell it. It's somehow it's also quite hard to sell the gold, and then to store it also very, very problematic. And if you want to go abroad, you cannot even bring your gold. There is a certain limit of gram of gold that you can bring abroad, right? If you know that there is a guy in India who put some gold in his bum, in his ass, because he wants to smuggle it. I mean, that's how hard it is to bring your wealth abroad. And I just thought, well, Bitcoin is the much better option for us because it's digital and it has the scarcity aspect that is even better than gold. Like, I cannot even verify if the gold that I have is real or not, even though if you Google, there is a way how you can verify gold, but I'm not expert on that. And even if I use someone service to verify the gold that I have, how can I trust these people? Like, how can I know if this certificate is real or not? So there's also problems in there.
Right. Now that's an interesting point, because as far as gold goes, that's, been ingrained into, let's say 2 or 3 generations now, right? To where we even have sayings like the gold standard. And you're right, in terms of gold, it's not really that decentralized, is it? Because as you're mentioning it, I'm also remembering in my mind about, let's say, the Thai, gold market. And we have a different grade than the 99.9, right? And each country has its own different grade. And so with that, as you go to one gold shop, you buy gold from shop A, usually you'd have to go back to shop A to get, the best price. If you go to shop B, right, that's some commission for them to test the gold or something like that. And even if you go to shop A, you pay a slight spread, but not the commission. So that's always that factor of always having to depend on the oracle, right? That's always the oracle problem in banking, even in gold, correct? And nowhere else or no time else where you take care completely of that problem with respect to your money until we have Bitcoin. So yeah.
Totally. And then that's why, like, I think Bitcoin is much better because you can easily verify it. You just send a transaction, and if the person receive it, that's it. And you just if you want to know your ownership, you just manage your private keys. It's not that hard.
All right. Okay. Before we jump on to the next part of the show, which talks about your projects, Sarvan, did you have any questions for Dia before we move on?
Not really. Maybe afterwards she explain us about her projects. We can get into the Indonesia and Bali meetups and compare it to like the way we do it here in Thailand.
Right. Okay. All right, Dia. Tell us a little bit about the Indonesian Bitcoin Association, how that came to be, who's running it, what is it, what is it doing, and where is it going? And then from there, then maybe that hops us right into, the Bali scene as well as the conference.
Yeah, sure. So the association is actually comprised of different people from different communities. So at the moment, inside of the board, we have 7 people. There is me, there is Pratiwi Gunawan, there is Henry Mualim, there's also Kinansha, Hansen Malau, Danita Niwan, Christopher Tahir, and Dimas. But yeah, like, this is actually consists of different type of, let's say, Bitcoin communities in Indonesia, in different part of Indonesia as well, because I live in Bali. Some people live in Sumatra, in different islands. Some people live in Java. So it's really interesting to have this, if I can say, like, an online association. We have at the moment around 1,500 members. Most of the members are people who are attending the conference. And what we are doing, there are many things, but primarily is events. So we run this annual conference since 2021. We also having, like, some report, like doing some survey within our community as well, try to understand what is people's perception about Bitcoin. And sometimes we work with different industry, like let's say if there's a local exchange, they want to have a Bitcoin education, so then we go there and then teach, become their like a speaker for talking about Bitcoin. But we also do a lot of outreach or education to the education institution, like starting from high school, even university. Sometimes we go there and then also talk about Bitcoin. We also recently doing like some education for the government as well regarding Bitcoin. So there are many things that we are doing, but primarily there are twofold: event and education.
Awesome. Talk to us a little bit about the events. The annual conference, obviously is happening once a year, but you also said there are like regular meetups in different locales, or how does that work?
Yeah, like so we also have meetups. The meetups that is more regular is the one in Bali, the one that I hosted. It's happened every 21st of every month, and it's actually just a very casual get together where we meet other fellow Bitcoiners, and then we just talk about what is currently happening in the Bitcoin world. Sometimes in several days, like special days, let's say Bitcoin days, we have meetups in 5 cities where it's organized with our members as well, and we have meetups as well in Surabaya. So it's happening very decentralized, because there's no like one person who will tell our member like, hey, you have to do the meetup. So if the members feel inspired, they can host their own meetups, and it's been working so far. And regarding the annual event, yeah, we be doing the Bitcoin conference, like I said before, in 2021, 2022. But both of them are online. So the reason why, because in Indonesia, most people, I think this is also happening in Thailand, like most people doesn't really speak a good English. So in the first 2 conference, we decided to run it online, because it's easier for us to, if we have a like English speaking speaker, we can have a subtitle and then people can understand more. But we also feel that there is something element missing if you're just doing it online, and that's why we want to test it out this year, where we're going to have it in person, and hopefully like meeting a lot of people finally in person, not only just like on Telegram or like on a Zoom call or in an online conference.
Very nice. And this will be the first time for the in-person conference, is it?
Yeah, it's gonna be in Bali. It's gonna be first time. So we thought like, where else the best place to host this conference, probably like, doing it in Bali, because I think I mentioned this in many Twitter spaces, that if anyone knows, Bali was once upon a time starting in 2014 until 2018, it was the first Bitcoin island, if I can say. There's a circular economy as well happening in Bali. So many businesses accepted Bitcoin, but I think they adopted too fast, because everything was being done on chain. So especially in 2017, during the block size war, when the fee is going up, many businesses decided not to accept Bitcoin, because it doesn't make sense for them to spend $5 worth of fee for $4 burger. So that's the first downside.
Well, you guys didn't have Lightning. We didn't have Lightning back then. Imagine if you had Lightning back then. Oh my God.
I know. I know, right? But and then like because it was becoming very viral, then the government started to came and then shut down businesses that accept payment outside of rupiah, including Bitcoin. So it's not only just they're not only go after Bitcoin, but there's also businesses that accept dollars or yen or euro. So they decided to create the they ban payments outside of rupiah. So that's why like since then up until now, we are trying to do like education to the government, like what is the benefit of having, let's say, lightning payment for tourism, and like or like even just a cross-border payment. But of course this will take time, because as you know, once the government is creating a regulation, it's a bit hard to revert back. But I think we need to do it like grassroots level. That's why also in this conference we are actually hosting a side event, Lightning Hackathon side event. Our idea is to invite developers in Indonesia and then surrounding countries to create Lightning apps that can help solve problems in Indonesia. Maybe it's about, I don't know, maybe it's about poverty or like clean water or stuff like that. And if they can use Bitcoin payments and Lightning, especially through using Lightning network, maybe we can start having a discussion from the grassroots level, like how this thing is actually really cool and really fun to work.
Nice. When is a hackathon? Is it before the event, during the event?
So the hackathon is going to be in a hybrid model. We're going to start in October. So the registration closed on October 6th. So we're going to have like a session, like an online session from October 7 to 8. And then the team can start working on their project until October 21st, where then the people who join the hackathon will come to Bali on October 25th for their demo presentation in front of the judges. And then we announce the winner on October 27th. And this hackathon is actually a part of a global hackathon. So it's called Legend of Lightning. If people know about that, they did the Legend of Lightning last year. So this year, I think they're going to work with several different conferences who wants to do Lightning Hackathon. So we are quite lucky that Human Rights Foundation and Full Growth Ventures sponsor for this hackathon. So the total price for the hackathon is $10,000. So yeah, it's actually quite a big incentive for people to join. And even if, let's say, you don't win the local hackathon, the Indonesia Bitcoin conference, you are still eligible to compete in the Legend of Lightning, the global one. I'm not really sure what is the total grand prize. I don't think they have announced it yet, but last year they have it for 3 Bitcoin in total. So yeah, I hope that through this hackathon there will be more innovation and cool Lightning apps coming out from Indonesia.
Very nice. Okay. I mean, when you talk about bringing developers together and building stuff, that's music to our ears, because, as you know, BOB stands for Build on Bitcoin. So literally you're doing that, on the Lightning Network. Very excellent. Let's maybe jump a little bit to one of your efforts, which talks about education and outreach, right? Specifically, when you talk about schools and universities, can you describe a little bit about those programs? And the reason I'm focusing down on that is, well, one is if they're really good ideas, which I'm sure you have, I would really like to steal it for Bob to use. That's number one. But number two, I think for Indonesia, quite critical, because as far as Southeast Asia goes, Indonesia not only has the biggest population, but also the youngest, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a little bit of a double sort of demographic dividends coming down the pipeline?
So at the moment, of course, there is still no, let's say, a Bitcoin school. Like I think, was it Kubo Plus who did like a very serious education for students. But in Indonesia, or at least like what we are doing in our association is that usually there will be a session, either it is about IT, it's about economy, technology. Usually we got invited by the faculty of economy or faculty of information technology to talk more about Bitcoin, and obviously usually they're really interested in blockchain. So but we we always like focusing on like why Bitcoin and not other crypto. So at the moment, what we are doing is through education, like as a guest lecturer. And what our other members also doing is they creating a module for a university. But I don't really know what is the status of that, but there is one university that really focusing on education related to blockchain. And I think this guy is trying to make that module for them to talk more about Bitcoin.
Okay, thanks for that, Dia. And just with respect to the schools and universities, those are really, great initiatives, it seems. Modules for university being guest lecturer. I think that's one thing you highlighted. So, perhaps university students will get a first touch, you see. Some of them may not even get Bitcoin until, like us and many others, 2, 3, 4 touches later, but at least they got that first touch, within that first touch point within the university context, which is kind of interesting because, maybe then in the future, they can actually look back and say, hey, I actually learned something useful. I remember that guest lecturer who said, this was the, perfect money and a great store of value. So that's very cool.
No, I think right now, like most of students, at least they are already heard about Bitcoin, and it's not like Bitcoin, what is that? Like they at least they already know about Bitcoin, and I'm sure that's what also in Thailand.
Yeah, I think in Thailand, I'll bet most students who have heard of Bitcoin will also have heard of crypto and all the other altcoins, shitcoins out there, and probably thinks the same thing, right? Where they think it's just a basket of stock. You need to diversify. You pick the biggest one for 50% and the rest you just diversify. And that's the wrong thing I think they're getting out of some of these, let's say, investment and crypto asset classes, right? Which, it's a lot more of that is happening too in Thailand. Those, blockchain education, Web3 education type efforts. But, it is what it is. Okay. Can I pivot a little bit to the other aspect of your education, which you said, educating the government? Tell me about that, because honestly speaking, I'm a little bit mixed on that. On the one hand, I understand why. I mean, we've talked, and I have a fintech business which deals with the government. And on the other hand, we're Bitcoiners who cannot be stopped with this thing called Bitcoin, which is uncensorable. So why do we need regulations? So you see where I'm going? Even on that spectrum, I'm mixed. I'm nowhere near the middle. I swing from one to the other, but mostly when Bitcoin is concerned, I'm like, regulating what? So yeah, what do you think?
So I will not deny that in Indonesia, what government says is really important for the people. I mean, in general, public will always follow what the government tell them. So that's why we are trying to, just have like some conversation with the government related to Bitcoin, and understand also what their perspective and where is their what is their what is it in English, like misconception or fear. Usually there's a lot of fear going on there, and usually there's a lot of because in Indonesia there's so many scams happen because in the crypto space, but there's also a lot of scams happen using the name of Bitcoin. So a lot of people, let's say they want to buy Bitcoin, but they don't really know where to buy Bitcoin. Then someone said, oh yeah, you can use this service. And then they give the person their money, and then suddenly the money goes away. And this is not like a real exchange. It's just like some dude that said that they can get Bitcoin for cheap. And this is happen in many cases. So of course the government is a bit having a negative mindset when they heard about Bitcoin, because they thought that the scam is Bitcoin, but it's actually not Bitcoin. It's just a scam, right? Like there's so many scams using fiat as well. So we think that by having the conversation, at least it gives like a more understanding, and then also some awareness for them, because if they just hear it from let's say from their circle, or like what they read on news, they probably won't understand what is Bitcoin. But what we did like last time, when the governor of West Java wants to come to Bitcoin Miami, so he invited us to explain to him about what is Bitcoin, about Bitcoin mining, about Bitcoin fundamental, and I feel like I know he's not the perfect Bitcoiners, but at least from the conversation he's starting to understand about the benefit of mining, and then what does it mean for exploring untapped energy in West Java. So I thought that's really I'm quite proud of that, and I think I understand your concern as well, that we don't really need government regulation, which is, I also think that's true, but I am in the opinion even the government is also just people. Like most of the government people are just people, and even though they don't like Bitcoin, they usually also already own some of Bitcoin. So it's actually having education, it's good. Like we should educate everyone, and that's just what I think.
Yeah, I actually agree with that, because as you highlighted the different aspects of Bitcoin, and I think we both agree that regulation doesn't really stop the network or transacting on the network. However, regulations can definitely impact and drive changes in the Bitcoin mining landscape, right? So if, let's say, Indonesia really goes heavy with tapping into unused geothermal, aided by these ASIC machines at site, on the well, at the wellhead, using sulfurous gas to generate power to power these ASICs, I think that's very well. I think that's where there's an alignment, and but it also, in my mind, not now, but let's say in a few years, where a majority, or let's say a good portion of decision makers within governments start realizing, what Bitcoin actually is to the level that we do, they're going to have to make a tough choice. On the one hand, it's benefiting them. On the other hand, they can't control the monetary policy, right? And to change that, everybody has a say. If you want to change it, you can do like, you know, a pull request and all that stuff. But how many? I don't know if we'll ever live to see the day when, you know, government bureaucrats start making pull requests in Bitcoin. I mean, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I also agree, like, you know, sometimes like what happened with El Salvador, you know, like a good education in the government level can also drive a lot of adoption. Like more people are using Bitcoin Lightning Network. That's, I think it's really like, I hope that's going to be the case for a lot of countries. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Indonesia Bitcoin conference. If people show up to Bali, or when people show up to Bali, what can they expect?
Okay, so what they can expect, obviously, you know, it's Bali, so everyone wants to go to Bali. It's a beach setting. We are actually going to be located in the east part of Bali, so it's a really nice place to watch sunrise. The place is going to be in Prime Plaza Hotel, so you know, we are going to take care of the food, and if people want to stay in the hotel, they can. The hotel has a lot of rooms as well. There's going to be 2 stages. So the first stage is just like the main stage, and then the second stage is yeah, more like a workshop, not only just, you know, workshop, but like more technical, especially dedicated for people who are interested in building Bitcoin businesses. There will be many talks regarding, let's say, how to build a good UI UX, how you can raise funding from Bitcoin focused VCs, stuff like that is also going to happen in the second stage. We are also going to incorporate, I think when everyone comes to Bali, people realize how much of this traditional art is really ingrained in the culture. So we are actually working with traditional Indonesian artists that will create like some art performance for us that will talk about Bitcoin. So I'm quite excited with that. And we yeah, actually the conference itself is going to start, we expect people to come a bit early, a day early, on the 25th. So there will be a networking night where people can hang out and then get to know each other before the conference. And then every conference, there's going to be like a social hour where, yeah, it's just like going to be casual, you know, hanging out with Bitcoiners after the conference. And then on the 28th, after the conference, we're going to have also an after party. So expect 4 days of many interesting events. There's also, I think there will be like many side events as well during the conference. And like what I experienced at the Bitcoin Thailand conference, yeah, the conference is really fun place to hang out, and fun place to get to know each other. Not only just, you know, we are so fixated with the Bitcoin Twitter. I will not say X because I still won't accept that Twitter now become X.
Yeah, X doesn't mean anything. It just seems like, sorry, I gotta do a like 30-second rant. It just seems like, you know, you ran out of ideas, so let's do X. Why? Well, I'm Generation X. Let's go, man. Generation X rules. You know, it's just silly.
Yeah, I know, it's weird. But yeah, I mean, like it's fun, right? Like without going to conference, I will never meet Piccolo. I will never meet Sovereignscape. So it's really fun to you know, having this human connection and networking and sharing stories and you know, be among the like-minded people.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that. I already jotted down a few ideas to lift and maybe make some of our stuff better. Part of it is to connect with the other communities around Thailand, you know, even though I think Thailand is very much weighted towards Bangkok, but definitely a big digital nomad community up north in Chiang Mai. So I'm gonna spend time there next week, doing some stuff with Captain Sid to see how we can progress that. So yeah, very interesting. And okay, Dia, almost coming up to the final moments of the show. But before I do that, Sovereign, do you have anything you want to jump in on?
Yeah, coming back to what you said about going to high schools and places like that to focus on Bitcoin education, what's your approach on that? What do you guys teach exactly?
Well, I think we need to talk about what close to home. Every time I did education, I always like to discuss about why prices has gone up. Why back in 1950s when our first founding father sorry, yeah, 1945, when our first founding father announced our independence, people can buy groceries for worth of 1 rupiah. Rupiah is our fiat currency, and now we need to spend 100,000 rupiah to buy 1 week of groceries, and that's like quite a high jump. And most people don't want to or don't know like why this thing happened, why suddenly prices has gone up, why it doesn't like why saving is actually saving in the bank is actually not very a good option at the moment. And usually that will make them to think, and from that conversation we will talk about like different money properties, and also the difference between Bitcoin and fiat. And of course, one thing that we need to really highlight is about the Bitcoin subsidies, like how the halving plays role to create this 21 million Bitcoin by 2140. So that usually my framework, and a lot of people will start thinking about or like start questioning why prices has gone up, why we can't afford home, why I have to work more hours and still cannot even enjoy the things that I should enjoy at the moment.
I see. Do you also teach them about good practices when onboarding people into Bitcoin, like self-custody?
Well, usually I teach them, that's like the first intro about Bitcoin, and then after that more like a workshop base, how they can buy Bitcoin, and then later how to save Bitcoin.
That would be a follow-up session basically, right?
Yeah.
I see. All right. Piccolo.
Okay. All right. Before we move to closing remarks, there we flip the table on our guests at the end and let you ask Bob Space, myself, or Sovereign one question if you have one. If not, we can just move to wrap.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Since Bob Space building on Bitcoin, I heard also this is an open source method. So can you explain more about how to open a Bob Space in Indonesia?
Oh, very easily. Basically, you talk to me and Sovereign. You let us know about the team that'll be running it, the type of events, but it seems like many of the initiatives are in line. The only thing we probably might want to discuss is more regular, let's say, technical workshops, right? You're already starting on a very good path with the Lightning Hackathon, but the thing is to try to keep that going on a consistent basis. And Bali, much like many tourist destinations, you have quite a few people coming through, and many of them are these Bitcoiners who can definitely contribute their time. So yeah, you want to do Bob Bali? The answer is yeah, let's do Bob Bali. Easy as that.
Awesome.
Yeah,
We'll talk later.
cool. Excellent. All right. See, we get things done here on the show, once in a while, at least. Okay, there. Thank you very much. An hour just flew by, actually slightly more, with some recording interruptions, but we'll take care of it. Let's move to closing remarks. Please tell our audience where to find you, anything you want to talk about with respect to the association or the conference itself, and what you would like our audience to walk away with.
Sure. Yeah, so everyone, the ticket for Indonesia Bitcoin Conference is on sale. So everyone can go to the indonesiabitcoinconference.com. You can also use BOBSPACE, BOBSPACE discount code. You can get this 10% discount. And if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter. My handle is Dea Rezkitha. I'm sure Piccolo will put it somewhere in the description. It's hard to spell it. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter or Nostr. Right now, I spend also a lot of time on Nostr. And yeah, I hope to see you guys at the Indonesia Bitcoin Conference. I really excited. This year, we have so many conferences in Southeast Asia, and I think it's a good start. We create this band of community of Southeast Asian Bitcoiners and create this, different type of conference, because most of the conference is either in the US or in Europe, but having Lightning Con in Vietnam, the BTC retreat in Philippines, the Bitcoin Thailand conference in Bangkok, and now the Indonesia Bitcoin conference in Bali will be, it will be a very strong point that Southeast Asia is, we are ready for Bitcoin adoption.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And that was Dea Rezkitha. And that's a wrap.